Did you know that Dark Souls has 21 named bonfires? I jumped online to find out exactly what their names were, and Fextralife.com had the answer. But I figured I'd check a second website just to double check the accuracy of these names, and Wikidot.com confirmed the same list of names. Except wait. Fextralife calls one of the bonfires Tomb of the Gravelord, and Wikidot calls the same bonfire Altar of the Gravelord. So which one's correct? The best way to find out is to fire up the game itself and check it at the source. Wouldn't you know it, it's Altar of the Gravelord, which means Wikidot was right all along. So I copied this list into a spreadsheet for my records so I can never be misled like that again. And then I used the filter tool to sort them all alphabetically. That's right, we're back at it again. Can you light all the Dark Souls bonfires in alphabetical order? Let's find out. Here are the rules. But first, my backdrop is looking kinda plain. That's better. These are premium metal posters made by Displate, who are the sponsor for today's video. They are the perfect alternative to your regular paper posters. They're high quality and 3D textured, which helps bring out their personality. Putting one of these on your wall is easy. You apply the adhesive paper to the wall, hold the magnetic square against the paper for 5 seconds, and then just place the poster against the magnet. You don't need any tools either, so it's perfect for anyone who is renting their home like me. The magnets are strong, so the posters are not going to fall, but if you want to, you can even swap the posters around. They come off the wall without fuss. Take a look at their website now and browse their 200 plus licensed designs or designs from over 40,000 independent artists. You can even upload your own custom designs and turn them into your own metal posters. Not to mention, you can get a discount on your own posters. All you need to do is click my link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen or use my code NG+ at checkout. With that, you can get 22% off one Displate, 27% off 2 Displates, or 33% off 3 or more Displates. Act soon though, this offer only lasts until the 31st of July. Thank you for checking out Displate, and thank you Displate for sponsoring this video. Back to the rules. Rule number 1, we must light all named bonfires in alphabetical order. Rule number 2, if a bonfire doesn't have a name, we cannot light it at all. Rule number 3, we will be avoiding glitches in this run. And finally, rule number 4, once we light the last named bonfire that comes alphabetically, we win! Our hero to undergo this quest will be Bonfire Bob the Bandit. Just a bit of admin to get out of the way first. Named bonfires are the ones that can be fast traveled to, and we're not allowed to light any other bonfire. The reason we're avoiding glitches in this run is to really test myself and prove I can actually get good at this game. As I mentioned in the intro, there are 21 named bonfires, and the first one alphabetically is Altar of the Gravelord. Okay, I should have seen that one coming. Altar of the Gravelord is the bonfire that spawns as soon as Gravelord Nito is defeated. But first things first, let's get to Firelink Shrine. There are 2 bonfires in the asylum, but neither of them are named, so we'll never be lighting them. If we died now in the asylum, we would respawn back in our starting cell. If we die after escaping the asylum demon, we respawn at the second bonfire in the asylum, even if we never lit it. This is a rare example of a default checkpoint in this game. I feel like we're going to learn a lot about where the default spawn locations are during this run. Something I need to mention is that the Firelink bonfire is already lit by default, so we will simply avoid resting at it until we reach the letter F. Also, Firelink has now become our new default spawn location, so if we die now, we respawn here, not only with full health, but with 10 Estus instead of 5. This is because the Firelink bonfire is already kindled once by default. I totally did that on purpose to show off this strat. Now we need to reach Gravelord Nito before we can light our first bonfire. This means we need to ring both Bells of Awakening, get through Sen's Fortress, beat Anor Londo, acquire the Lord Vessel, travel through the Catacombs, and get to the end of the Tomb of the Giants. We need to do all that without being able to level up, since the only way to level up in this game is by resting at a bonfire. This means we need a weapon that can hold up even at level 1. And our weapon of choice is the reinforced club sold by the Undead Merchant in the Undead Burg. It requires 12 strength to wield, but the bandit class starts with 14, so there's no problem there. It has bleed, and I just like its moveset, particularly the fact that the heavy attack is a jumping attack by default. We want to reach the Bell Gargoyles next, but if we carry on through the Undead Burg, we'll have to fight the Taurus Demon first. I figured we would just go around instead. Another strange quirk of this game you might not realise in a casual run is that the enemies respawn even if you never rested at a bonfire. If you go far far enough away from Firelink Shrine and then return, the hollows are all back again. We head down to Anor Londo ruins and make use of our master key that we selected as our starting item, which unlocks the way to the Valley of Drakes. We can grab this soul item without waking up the dragon, and sprinting through here brings us to the Darkroot Basin. We resist the urge to light the bonfire on the way, and then we take a heavy hit from the Black Knight. We repay him by introducing him to Gravity. We claim his blue titanite, and then we grab the Grass Crest shield. This reminds me that our healing will be quite limited during a lot of this run, as we can't refill our Estus whenever we want. We dodge a titanite demon to find Andre. He sells titanite shards. We use all our soul items and the souls we already had saved from the Asylum demon, and we're able to buy the 9 shards we need to upgrade our club to +5. We grab the Firekeeper soul and quickly trigger the shortcut elevator back to Firelink. After upgrading our Estus flask, we head back up towards the gargoyles. This jumping heavy attack is so good. We will also be grabbing all the humanity we find along the way as well. The gargoyle boss fight reminded me that we can only roll in 4 directions while locked on in this game. I've been playing too much Elden Ring. I don't need to cut off the gargoyle's tail, but I tried anyway. I don't know if blunt weapons like the club simply can't cut tails, but despite landing some direct hits, it just wouldn't break. Anyway, with our reinforced club, we put the gargoyles down first try, which I understand is nothing to brag about these days. And we got a twin humanity. After ringing the first bell, we make sure to grab the basement key while we're here. Even the hollows outside the parish respawn without us resting. We speak to our new friend Lautrec to receive the Sunlight Medal, and then we introduce him to our old friend Gravity. I'd rather the Firekeeper stick around after all. Normally, we would rest at a bonfire to spawn Lautrec's dropped items, but since we can't do that, we can just quit out instead. We're going to need all these humanity and the Fap ring. This ring boosts our stats nicely, but it breaks if we ever take it off, so don't take it off. Since we're at Firelink, we can refill our Estus for free with a quick death abuse. And we can even reclaim our souls too, so there's literally no downside. Thanks to the Fap ring boosting our equip load, we stay quick rolling. And now we need to head back to the Valley of the Drakes to access Blight Town. We let the wheel carry us all the way down, and we travel through the swamp to reach Quelaag's domain, making sure to give the troll enemies a wide berth. I had aspirations of beating Quelaag first try. I knew that staying close to her spider head allows you to avoid her sword attacks, and I knew when to back up to avoid the AoE attack. It was her pools of lava that was my undoing in the end, and I respawned all the way back to Firelink Shrine. In this run, the real boss fights are the runbacks. The problem with my first attempt is that I lacked bravery. I tend to always hide behind my shields in Dark Souls playthroughs, but it's time to get away from that mindset. I need to get used to switching to two-hand attacks when an opening presents itself, and this was the perfect fight to learn this very technique. We even managed to grab our lost souls. We still had a couple of close calls, but we soon managed to claim her 20,000 souls and her twin humanities. That's the second bell rung. We roll through the wall to find Quilana and her bonfire, which also seems to be lit already. I suppose all the Firekeeper bonfires are already lit, but we're still not allowed to rest at this bonfire. We want to head back to Firelink. We could just use a Homeward Bone, but we forgot about the Firekeeper soul in Blight Town. I made a run for it, hoping to reach it before I die, but unfortunately these devil dogs had other ideas. I really want that Firekeeper soul, and I wouldn't mind getting my 35,000 souls back too, so I went back. By some miracle, I got my souls back and I managed to grab the Firekeeper soul, but I failed to escape. I think it's time to let go of those souls. I still have a long way to go before I can even level up, so it's for the best. We head to Sen's Fortress instead, and we very quickly see how little damage we're dealing all of a sudden. We back up and consider our options, only for the lizard men to chase us way further than I've ever seen, and then it just vanishes right in front of us. I figured I could just sprint through Sen's Fortress, and then I very quickly learn how badly that can go. Before trying again, we head back to Anor Londo ruins to grab the Firekeeper soul down there. As long as you accept that you're going to die after you grab it, it's easy to reach. Sen's Fortress take 2. We sprint by all the early enemies, but we get pincered by a couple of them. We have one of them break the wall for me so we can open some cages. This might be the most clutch dodge of my career. And then we grab another soul item. There is a ring I want here. We find it by falling over the edge of these steps. There are a couple of lizard men in my way, but we didn't even need to defeat them. The first one I managed to kick over the edge, and the other one walked over the edge by himself for some reason. He hasn't fallen all the way down though. Oh wait, no, he fell again. I can still see him though. He didn't fall all the way. Oh no, wait, he fell again. Now we can grab the Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring, which prevents our footsteps from making any sound whatsoever. That's right, we're pursuing stealth. Since dying would take us all the way back to Firelink, unlocking shortcuts is more important than ever in this run. So we make this tight jump across the gap in the bridge, which leads to a cage key. With this key, we can unlock the cage elevator that leads back down to the start of Sen's Fortress. Before we head into the boss room, we would like to defeat the giant on the roof to stop him from throwing boulders at us during the boss fight. But this giant defeated me by taking advantage of my biggest weakness, locking on. Oh, and being punted by a leg bigger than me too. Back to Firelink I go. I think I need more power. I heard the blacksmith Vamos in the Catacombs can fire infuse a +5 weapon, and all it requires is a single green Titanite shard. If we feed Frampt the blue Titanite chunk that we got from the Black Knight, he gives us 3 green Titanite shards in return. Now all we need to do is reach Vamos himself. He's in the Catacombs, so we make a mad dash through there, ignoring all the skeletons we possibly can. This goes about as well as you might expect. I nearly died multiple times, but I did make it to Patches. I recall him trolling you if you tried to cross the bridge, so I figured it was best for him to meet his end. But it turns out he's been working with the skeletons all along. We came back with a vengeance and took him out clubbing. I won't say no to his humanity either. With him gone, this bridge won't turn back, and we can jump down here. We make our way down, being careful not to slip off the edge, like that, because then we'd spawn all the way back at Firelink, like this. On the way down, we grab another green Titanite shard. We're going to need plenty of these. We find our new best friend, Vamos. But a skeleton has followed us down here, and with the necromancer still alive, it just keeps coming back to life. We can't use the bonfire to get rid of it, but we can quit out to send the skeleton back to where he came from. Vamos lets us modify our reinforced club into a fire weapon, and we can also upgrade the club a couple of times too. This costs us 3 of our green Titanite shards. To get back to Firelink, we can either use a Homeward Bone, the Dark Sign, or we take a really painful death. We were just a single green Titanite shard away from one more weapon upgrade. If we head back to Blighttown Swamp, we can find one near some slugs. We don't even have to go back to Vamos to upgrade our fire weapon. Now that it's been infused, any blacksmith can upgrade it for us. With our new and improved weapon, let's give Sen's Fortress another try. And we died immediately. Alright, let's just run by all the enemies again. Thank goodness for this cage shortcut, we're going to need it. The giant just fell down and stayed hunched over this time. Did I do that? I don't know, but it worked. The Iron Golem didn't land a single hit on me. We stunned him and knocked him over. But despite the fact that I can see blood coming out of him, he doesn't actually take bleed damage apparently. Anyway, to Anor Londo. Once again, the bonfire here is already lit due to a firekeeper being here, so we just don't rest at it. We nail a plunge attack on this gargoyle, but he didn't care and he just walked away. So I don't care about him either, see ya. I have no idea how I landed on the balcony here. That was dangerous as hell. We take the section in the rafters very carefully, or we can just wait for these guys to jump off the edge for us. I did die here before reaching Ornstein and Smaug though, and right back to Firelink we go. That's right, even arriving at Anor Londo isn't a checkpoint. This means that every time we die in Anor Londo, we have to run through Sen's Fortress all over again. I've run through Sen's Fortress a lot in this run. I've become very familiar with the cage elevator, and I've kicked this guy over the edge many times. There is something we can do to prevent this long run back to Anor Londo. We want to access the Painted World. Since we're back in Firelink anyway, we can use this bird to take us back to the asylum. We defeat the Black Knight outside our starting cell, claim his red Titanite chunk, and grab the peculiar doll. Upon returning to Anor Londo, we use the doll to enter the painting. Now that we're here, this is our new default spawn location. The only way back out is to reach the end of the area, but we can grab the twin humanities on the way. The biggest obstacle here is the poison dragon blocking the bridge. It pukes up poison goo in whatever direction we're standing. We can take advantage of the long puke animation and attack its hands. I have no idea how I survived this. I thought I was a goner. We rebound and whittle the dragon's health enough to kill it. The dragon's lower body is still blocking the bridge, but if you hit it with a jumping attack, the lower half immediately stands upright and then we can walk through its legs. I'm not sure if anyone considers that to be a glitch or not. It seems too easy to be a glitch, but it also seems unintentional by the devs. I don't know, let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, we don't need to fight Priscilla, we can just ignore her and leave the Painted World to return to Anor Londo. Once again, as we made our way through Anor Londo, we suffered yet another death, which then reveals why we went to the trouble of going into the Painted World. Upon leaving the Painted World, the first bonfire in Anor Londo becomes our default spawn location, even though we never touched the bonfire here. This makes all subsequent runbacks much more bearable, especially with this archer in my way. Although I managed to parry him twice on my second attempt, sometimes I surprise myself. We use our willpower to not light this bonfire, and we take a sneaky shortcut by jumping over the railing. We made sure to open the giant door for a shortcut that avoids those archers. And then we find the giant blacksmith. He sells green titanite shards. We only need 5 more to upgrade our club as high as it will go. The shards are fairly costly, and we didn't quite have enough souls to afford. We could have used all our soul items, but we can also kill the enemies in the area. I didn't even know these big knight guys healed themselves. After our upgrades, we death abused nearer to the bonfire to respawn there again, and with 10 Estus, since all Firekeeper bonfires are enkindled once by default. It's finally time to challenge Ornstein and Smaug. We get hit from behind through the portal, and then Ornstein kills us. Good start. This is exactly why I entered the Painted World. I knew we would be dying here a lot, so it's great that we can minimize the run back like this. This doesn't change the fact that I need to defeat Ornstein and Smaug without leveling up. The true test begins here. I usually try to defeat Ornstein first, since Super Smaug is easier than Super Ornstein, but I found that defeating regular Smaug first was also easier. I suppose it's a pick your poison type situation, but after Super Ornstein destroyed me, I went back to trying to kill Ornstein first. I learned that if we two-hand our upgraded club, it only takes 2 attacks to stagger Ornstein. This is what I need to take advantage of. This might be the new most clutch dodge of my career. Getting a stagger every 2 successive hits made this fight much more manageable. We took plenty of hits from Smaug in the process, but our healing is very decent and we take Ornstein down. More good news, it takes just 3 successive hits to stagger Super Smaug. Combine that with his attacks being easy to telegraph and we finally have victory. We acquire the Lord Vessel, which gives us access to fast travel, except we can't use fast travel until we actually can use a bonfire. This means we need to make our way back to Firelink on foot. But before we leave Anor Londo, we grab a few things. The fireplace hides a secret room with a few useful things inside, like the full Haval armor set and a mimic chest that I want to defeat. In hindsight, I could have used a Lloyd's talisman, but it wasn't that hard. And we receive the Occult Club. A blacksmith can also modify our Occult Club into a Divine Club +5, which is exactly what I'm after. Now we can leave Anor Londo. Thankfully, the flying creature that brought us here can carry us back to Sen's Fortress. We travel backwards through Sen's Fortress, but on the way through there are a few more things we want to pick up. We just so happen to get a weapon drop from one of the Serpent Men, so we get his greatsword. Also, there is a mimic chest in the lower part of Sen's Fortress, and we want the weapon that it drops, the Lightning Spear. This will be very useful and you'll see why later. Directing the boulders a certain direction breaks a hole in the wall, which allows us to grab the Gold Serpent Ring, which boosts our item discovery rate. Upon arriving in the Undead Parish, we pay a visit to the blacksmith Andre, and we use the souls we got from Ornstein and Smaug to buy the Crest of Artorias. Back in Firelink, we place the Lord Vessel to remove the Golden Fog Gates, and I'm pretty sure this doesn't count as a bonfire. Our next destination should be the Catacombs, but I just had to kill the Taurus Demon first. I even one-shot it, which was immensely satisfying. I now understand why the one-shot challenge is a thing. Solaire isn't standing where he normally starts. I must have done something to make him move on. Anyway, it's finally time to head towards our first bonfire at the end of the Catacombs. Skeletons will respawn a few seconds after defeating them. To prevent this, we would normally need to find and defeat the Necromancers, but this is exactly why I got the Divine Club. Killing a skeleton with a divine weapon will prevent them from being resurrected. This makes my travel through the Catacombs much safer, or as safe as it can be anyway. While I'm in the early parts of the Catacombs, I have the Gold Serpent Ring equipped to boost item drop rates. This is because I know the Necromancers have a chance to drop a Skull Lantern. Fortunately, it didn't take long for us to get one, and when we do, we immediately backtrack to Firelink Shrine. We use the crow to carry us back to the asylum, and then we drop the Skull Lantern in the bird nest nearby. If you don't know, dropping certain items in this nest will transform them into certain other items. We would need to rest at a bonfire to trigger the transformation, but thankfully quitting out also works. The the skull lantern turns into a ring of fog, which makes us semi-transparent, and the enemies have a hard time spotting us. Combine this with the slumbering Dragon Crest ring to reduce our noise, and the stealth build is in full effect. We had to remove our fat ring for this, but it's a small price to pay. It's so strange being able to get this close to the enemies without them noticing me first. In fact, the floating exploding skull enemies don't see or hear us at all, so they will never aggro. I also grabbed the Darkmoon Seance ring while I'm here. By the way, some people told me that you can get to Nito's boss room earlier by climbing inside a coffin, and this is true, but when I get there is no bonfire. The bonfire only spawns when Nito is defeato. No shortcuts there then. I drop in on this Black Knight who is practically asking me to backstab him, and he drops a white Titanite chunk for me. I hoped to use my stealth to avoid the Wheelbone boys, but there just seems to be no avoiding them. I take a death and respawn all the way back in Anor Londo. Ironically, whereas using the Painted World to change my default spawn point to Anor Londo helped me with a lot of my attempts against Ornstein and Smaug, it's now making my run back to the Catacombs quite possibly the worst run back ever. If I wanted to stay sane, I need to learn the shortcuts within the Catacombs. We can fall all the way to the bottom from here. Now we just need to avoid the bone wheels again. Although, if we wait long enough, they just clip through the wall and die apparently. I decided it would be safer to abandon my drop souls, of which there was close to 100,000. I knew I would die to the bone wheels again if I tried to get them, so I just went straight to Pinwheel instead. No one's ever died to Pinwheel before, so it's a much safer option, and it's back to Anor Londo I go. I have learned my lesson this time. I two-hand the club and wail on him until he dies, which didn't take long. That's what I should have done the first time. We arrive at the Tomb of the Giants. It's very dark here, and my dumb self traded away my only skull lantern. This means one wrong move and it's back to Anor Londo I go. Again. I need another light source, and we know exactly where one is, but first I want to grab as much humanity as possible. We haven't used any in this run yet, so we have a fair amount. There's even a twin humanity in the lower Undead Burg, and we can buy one from the female Undead Merchant. While I'm passing through, I decided to drop in on the Capra Demon. I've never seen him come all the way up here before. This weapon is so busted against these early game bosses. We even get another humanity. As soon as we have 30 humanities in total, we run through Blight Town again to return to Quelana. After joining her covenant, we can give her our soft humanities. We have exactly 30 and we hand them all over. If you don't know already why we're doing this, it will become clear soon. For now, we need to enter the Demon Ruins and encounter the Ceaseless Discharge. It's fine though, ever since the cheese strap became common knowledge, no one's ever died to Ceaseless Discharge. Oh look, it's Anor Londo! Welcome to the new worst run back in Dark Souls history. And you know what? I feel the need to show off the entire run back sped up, just so you have an idea of how far I have to travel every time I die. I'm sure I was just unlucky the first time. This time we've got Ceaseless in the bag, and you know what? I'm actually starting to hate the pretentious architecture of Anor Londo. It insists upon itself. Since we need to run back through Sens anyway, we may as well grab the Flame Stone Plate ring on the way. Apparently I need the extra fire defense. After dealing a massive 12 damage, I left the rest up to my tag team partner, Gravity. Using our stealth strats, we sneak through the rest of the Demon Ruins completely undetected. We detour to the right before the Demon Fire Sage boss fog to find some maggot enemies and a large door. This door is normally sealed shut, but since we gave Quelana 30 humanity, the door will now open for us. On the other side is another maggot thing, and killing this one rewards us with the very thing we came here for, the Sunlight Maggot Helmet. Just by wearing it, we become our own light source. And now we travel through the Catacombs once more, Divine Club in hand. Amusingly, the beacon of light on my head does not make us any more visible, so our stealth build still works. The tomb is much easier to explore now, and for someone like me who doesn't have the place memorized, this is a godsend. This is when I discovered the true power of stealth. You can sneak up on the crystal lizards. You can even hide behind something for a while and all the enemies lose sight of you. We use this to equip the lightning spear. We don't have the stats to use it properly, but for our purposes that doesn't matter. If we two-hand the spear and hold the block button, Nito's sword attack that comes out of the ground can never hit us. This works due to our character's legs being spread, and only certain weapons like spears allow for this stance when blocking. Our stealth rings also prevent his skeleton followers from aggroing entirely. Sometimes Nito will get stuck on those skeletons since they don't move for him. If I brought a bow and arrow, I probably could have cheesed him. Anyway, Nito does a scream for us before he uses his sword attack through the ground, which is just enough time for us to swap to the spear, two-hand it, and block. Who needs to learn how to dodge when we can abuse hitboxes? Also, our fire club does more damage to Nito than our divine club, I don't know why. But with that, we can finally light our very first bonfire, Altar of the Gravelord. We take a look at the list of warpable bonfires, and the only one in the list is Firelink Shrine. This proves that Firelink is the only bonfire in the game that you can warp to by default, which is actually an anti-softlock since we're trapped in Nito's boss room otherwise. Also, the bonfire we're currently at won't appear in the list, so we'll need to get to the next bonfire to prove that this one is the first one alphabetically. That next bonfire is Anor Londo, but before we warp to Firelink, we can finally level up for the first time in the run. We warp back to Firelink, run through Sen's Fortress one last time to reach Anor Londo and light our second bonfire. We can now see proof of the previous bonfire's name. The cool thing about this run is that we needed the Lord Vessel before we could light any bonfires, which means we get to see each bonfire get added to the list one at a time in alphabetical order. Next up is the Catacombs bonfire, which is the one right next to Vamos the blacksmith. We got there once, we can do it again, but before we head to the next bonfire, there is an item in the Tomb of the Giants that we missed, and I wouldn't mind grabbing it before leaving. It's heavily guarded, but we can get above it and drop down onto it. It's the large divine ember. Because I'm smart, I used a homeward bone to return to Vamos. I totally didn't run through the giant skelly men. With this ember, we can upgrade our divine club even further. We do need a few more white titanite chunks though. We can find a couple of them in the Tomb of the Fallen Giants, and there's even a white slab here too, which is handy since we're right here. There's also another Black Knight hiding around here. He drops a white chunk too, but he's apparently paid off the skeletons. Why do they always work together like this? What's the lore on that one? That's fine, I have a friend too. It's called Gravity. Anyway, we can also trade in our Sunlight medal with the Crow for another white chunk, which is a much safer method of getting one. The next bonfire is Chamber of the Princess, so we warp to Anor Londo, run to the end, and light it up. The list of bonfires doesn't show in alphabetical order in-game, of course, but at least they're still appearing in alphabetical order. The next bonfire is Chasm of the Abyss, which is the bonfire at the very end of the DLC. This is when I learned that the pendant in the Duke's Archive doesn't drop until we speak to the NPC in Darkroot Basin first. That's fine, we trek all the way there from Firelink, put down the Hydra one head at a time, and we go water dousing for gold. With all I've been through, she could at least look at me. We walk back to Anor Londo, pry the pendant from the golem's cold dead hands, and return to Darkroot. We get pulled into the DLC by the long arm of Manus, and now we need to defeat the Sanctuary Guardian. There is a bonfire before the boss, but that is no help to us, of course. Fun fact though, all 5 bonfires in the DLC are warpable. It just so happens that the first one we need is at the very end. Accessing the DLC is not a checkpoint either, so when I inevitably die, I go all the way back to Firelink. Before the next attempt, I decided to relieve Havel of his ring, so I could Havel it instead. Fast rolling is the key to victory for me. The Guardian will sometimes stomp the ground to try and stun me, but if we roll to the side, we can follow up with a heavy attack. Next up is Knight Artorias. This was the reminder I needed that this fight is still the best fight in Dark Souls 1. It's this fight that really taught me how to play this game without relying on a shield so much. But when we have to run all the way back here from Firelink every time we die, it soon starts to grate on you. This is when I decided to kindle the Anor Londo bonfire all the way so I could respawn with 20 Estus. I can't kindle the bonfire at Firelink because I can't rest at it yet, but I can travel to it from Anor Londo to shorten the run back. When two-handing our club, a single heavy attack followed up by 2 normal attacks is enough to stagger Artorias to interrupt his buff spell. Given long enough and we prove the club is mightier than the sword. I used a homeward bone to return to a bonfire and use all the souls we gained to level up. only to be reminded that there are now 2 Sanctuary Guardians. We don't have to fight them, but we do have to dodge them on every single run back. We also found someone mourning at Artorias' grave, and I quite like her fit. I'm a sucker for blue, what can I say? The part I'm dreading is coming up though. I've never been great at fighting Manus, but there is something we can find that helps. If we use a light source right here, like our sunlight helm, a secret room is revealed and we find a silver pendant inside. This is a usable item that can be used to deflect dark magic. On the way to Manus is an enemy that I've actually never killed before. It's the Chained Prisoner. He kills me every single time I play the DLC and I always end up running by him. But not today. I'm finally going to get my revenge. Eventually. That's another run back from Firelink. Okay, he wins again, I'll just run by him. We need to resist the urge to light this bonfire, but thankfully there is an elevator shortcut we can unlock to get back to near the beginning of the DLC. This will help make the run back slightly more bearable. Something that occurred to me while I was travelling through this cave is that I've never actually defeated Manus before Sif before. This means I've never seen the optional cutscene that you can get before fighting Sif if you summon Sif for the Manus fight. I don't know when I'm going to get another opportunity to do this, so I decided to free Sif from his seal by defeating the shadow enemies all around him. Sif is summoned within the boss room itself, and Manus shows us his long arm again. I didn't even get the chance to summon Sif as Manus put me down in seconds. So, confession time. I've never actually defeated Manus legit. The only time I've ever killed him, I cheesed him with a bow and arrow from outside his boss room. It's time to change that, and that means being much better prepared. We warp to Anor Londo, use a humanity to reverse our hollowing, and re-enter the Painted World. We approach this cliff edge to get invaded by King Jeremiah and his stupid hat. We want that stupid hat, so we stunlock him against the wall. Killing him doesn't give us the hat right away, but now that Jeremiah is dead, we can find his clothes in Priscilla's boss room. We walk back to Firelink Shrine and use the sewer shortcut to access the depths. We're only here to butcher the butcher and claim the large ember in the nearby chest. We return to Firelink, but on the way we buy some transient curses from the female undead merchant. We use the bird to take us back to the asylum and drop the stupid hat at the nest to trade for another fap ring. We return to the New Londo ruins in search for the very large ember. I equipped the gold serpent ring to boost item drop rates for more transient curses, which the ghosts drop, but that doesn't help if we can't reach them. Just grab it, it's right in front of your face! After draining the water, we can find these Void Knight guys, and the gold ring helps us to get their Titanite chunk drops. As soon as we find the very large ember and we're happy with all the chunks we've found, we return to Andre to hand over the embers we found. This allows us to upgrade a weapon to plus 15, and we chose the Man-Serpent Greatsword. We pop all of our consumable souls, and use all the regular Titanite we've been hoarding to take it all the way to plus 14. We just need a Titanite slab to upgrade it to its maximum, and the easiest one to get is by defeating the Stray Demon. Considering this boss just repeats the same 2 attacks the entire fight, this was a surprisingly easy slab to get. We now have a plus 15 Man-Serpent Greatsword. We equip the Fap ring and Havau's ring and our new sword. We sell everything we don't need to Frampt, and we level up our endurance so we can fast roll. We also use another humanity to reverse our hollowing, and we return to the DLC. Manus' arm is long, we run for our lives, we take a shortcut to reach Manus, and we summon Best Boy Sif. It's now time to give Manus the fight of his life. We deal so much more damage now, and Sif acts as the distraction I need him to be. With all the preparations we made, I actually forgot about the amulet thing, the one that deflects dark magic. I saw some perfect examples of when the best time to use it would be, like when we get surrounded by the dark attacks. But we were finally able to put him down regardless. Sif even sits down before he vanishes. We can finally light our next bonfire. And the next one is Crystal Cave. We just need to defeat Sif the Scaleless, so we warp to Anor Londo and make our way through the Duke's archives. We're not skipping the first encounter with Sif in this run, I'm trying to avoid anything the devs didn't really intend. Fun fact, this is the only fog gate in the entire game where you can go back through it. Anyway, Sif kills us and we go to jail. We don't use the bonfire here in this cell, and we lead a jailbreak. Another fun fact, the jail cell in Duke's archives is also a default spawn point, whether we rest at the bonfire or not. I'd rather respawn here than Anor Londo right now, so I'll take it. After unlocking a shortcut or two, we return back to Anor Londo to rest at the bonfires so that can be our spawn point again. I somehow managed to get both golden golems together in the same place. I didn't even know you could do that, and I did it by accident. I soon realised that our biggest enemy when fighting Seath is not the boss itself, it's the lock-on. It makes me miss my attacks more often than not. I hacked away at Seath's tail a bunch of times, and it never broke. Oh well, we can now rest at the Crystal Cave bonfire. Our next one is the Darkmoon Tomb. All we need to do is warp to Anor Londo, head over to Gwyndolin's boss room, and light the bonfire in front of it. While we're here, we put on the Darkmoon Seance ring to reveal the boss fog, and we go for a big walk to take down Gwendolyn herself. I only did this to get the Sunlight Blade miracle. Anyway, the next bonfire is Daughter of Chaos in Quelaag's domain. Just another run through Blighttown. What could go wrong? Oh, nothing went wrong. Easy bonfire. Okay, the next one is the Depths. We return there, and the bonfire we need is actually quite close to the butcher that we killed. All we need is the key to open the door, and the master key works. The next bonfire is Firelink Shrine, so we can just warp there, and then rest there. Now we need to find the Oolacile Sanctuary bonfire, which is in the DLC. The only bonfire we can warp to in the DLC is the last one in Manus' boss room, but you can't backtrack from there. It looks like we need to access the DLC from Darkroot again and travel through it as normal. Except the portal seems to be gone. So it turns out, if you defeat Manus, his weird long arm no longer pulls you into the DLC from Darkroot. So if you defeat Manus without lighting any of the DLC bonfires before him, and then leave the DLC, you are then locked out of the DLC for the rest of the playthrough. Huh. The only way to gain access again is with a glitch. So, to answer the main question of this video, can you light all the Dark Souls bonfires in alphabetical order? No, you can't. Not without glitches anyway. Which means the run ends at 10 out of 21 bonfires. That means I am turning this into a minimum glitch run. We warp back to Manus' boss room and perform the glitch Force Quit Wrong Warp. All we need to do is warp away from this area with the bonfire, and then force close the game at the very moment the load screen finishes. This confuses the game, and now we spawn at the very start of the location we tried to warp from. Doing this anywhere in the DLC puts us right at the start of the DLC. Normally, I'm an advocate of glitches in challenge runs, so it feels weird to have them be against our rules, but you have to get out your comfort zone sometimes. But something we now have to keep in mind is, if we die before lighting our next bonfire, we respawn back in Manus' boss room, which means we would be forced to use the Force Quit Wrong Warp again. Suddenly, this run through the 2 Sanctuary Guardians is the most tense run of the entire game. But we made it. With this bonfire being lit, we can now return to the DLC legitimately anytime we need to. The next bonfire is Oolacile Township, which is the next bonfire in the DLC anyway. It's right after Artorias' boss room. Guess what? The next bonfire, Oolacile Township Dungeon, is the very next bonfire in the DLC again. But this bonfire is the one guarded by the chained prisoner. We're not ducking this guy anymore, not after coming this far. With our new build, we decimate him in just 4 attacks. And we light another bonfire. The next one is Painted World of Ariamis. We warp to the Darkmoon Tomb bonfire instead of the Anor Londo bonfire, since the Firekeeper might be a bit angry at us. And the bonfire that we need is at the very start of the Painted World. We actually can't warp from this bonfire though, so we need to run through to the end of the Painted World still, which will be the 3rd time we've done it in this run now. The next bonfire is Sanctuary Garden, the very first bonfire in the DLC. We warp to Oolacile Sanctuary and run back through the Guardians again, but this time from the opposite direction. These guys must be so confused why I keep running back and forth through this place. The next bonfire is Stone Dragon, which is at the end of the Ash Lake. We access Ash Lake via the Blighttown Swamp. The fact this area is hidden behind 2 illusionary walls is insane to me. This is another area that I'm not very familiar with, which is quite nerving considering I'll have to run back through the Blighttown Swamp every time I die. You know what? I've also never defeated the Hydra in Ash Lake either, so wait right there, let me just light this bonfire, and oh god, this Hydra can jump. We get to the bonfire at the end of the lake and then we return with a vengeance. I feel like I should do a build that uses dragon scales in the future. The next bonfire is a nice easy one, Sunlight Altar. Surprisingly, Solaire is here now, after all we've done too. I could have sworn that we did something to make him move on earlier, weird. It's time to do something else I've never done. We hide here long enough to bait the dragon down, which gives us time to run by him and reach the bonfire. The next bonfire is the Abyss. But before we head there, we need to find Sif in Darkroot Garden. Did anybody else do this cheesy soul grind back in the day? You aggro all the human enemies in this area of the woods and then lure them over the edge here. I used to do this a lot in the original Dark Souls, and it's fun to see that it still works in the remaster. And now, for the first time, I get to see the extended Sif cutscene that we get since we summoned Sif for the Manus boss fight first. He recognizes me. Why must we fight? Sorry Sif, I was happy to let you live, but you did start it, and I need that ring. After all, without that ring, we can't fight the 4 kings in the Abyss. Wearing it causes us to lose a lot of equip load, so we're going to be very slow down there, which means we may as well go all in on Poise with the full Havau set. This will also be the first time that I make use of the Sunlight Blade buff too. I kind of forgot about it until now. It seems I've become too powerful. We light the bonfire down here and we never return. The next one is the Duke's Archives. I warp to Anor Londo, completely forgetting the Firekeeper hates me now. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. Since the shortcut has been opened, we can run straight through the Duke's Archives and get to the bonfire. You know what? I think the Duke's Archives might be the second worst place in this game. Yeah, I said it. Anyway, the next bonfire is Tomb of the Giants, which is the worst place in this game. We can warp to the Catacombs bonfire near Vamos to get as close as we can. There are actually a couple of bonfires in the Tomb of the Giants, so we had to be careful not to light the wrong one. I was pretty confident this was the right one though. I've been stuck in the Tomb of Giants long enough to remember which one is the warpable bonfire. That leaves just one final warpable bonfire in the entire game. The last obstacle, the final hurdle. Think what could be standing in our way. We need to get all the way to Undead Parish. After a grueling walk from Firelink, we light our final bonfire. But I can't help but think there might be another bonfire in this game that we've not seen yet. Perhaps in the Kiln of the First Flame? But if we want to reach that bonfire, we need to defeat all 4 lords, and the only one we haven't beaten yet is the Bed of Chaos. We warp to the Daughter of Chaos bonfire, and we do a bit of cleanup on the way. This includes putting down the Demon Fire Sage. I can't believe I gave up 30 humanity to skip you, get out of here. Next we go through the Centipede Demon, and this was the strangest Centipede Demon fight I've ever had. I cut off his limb in a single hit by accident, and then he grabbed me twice in a row, but on the second grab, due to whereabouts he was when he grabbed me, he clipped through the wall or the floor or something, and he just died immediately. Like, I knew this was possible, but I've just never gotten it so quick and easy before. We avoid one more urge to light a bonfire, and we must now face the Bed of Chaos. At least if we die, we'll only have to run back from the Daughter of Chaos bonfire. And then we died, so we had to run back from the Daughter of Chaos bonfire. When it's defeated, a bonfire spawns in its place, and we are now trapped on this small ledge. It's intended that we use the bonfire here to warp out of here, but we can just use a homeward bone. With that, we finally have access to the Kiln of the First Flame. There is one final bonfire here that we must find, and Black Knights aren't going to stop me now. We found out that Gwyn's opening attack can be parried more consistently if we walk right into it as we parry. With that knowledge, I was getting this pretty much every time. 2 hits from this sword while two-handing it staggers Gwyn too. That stagger mechanic is huge actually. With that, we approach the final bonfire in the game. But it doesn't have a name and you can't warp to it, so we also must resist the urge to light this bonfire too. We walk away, lighting it will be against our rules after all. We use a homeward bone, but we just reappear right here, which means that Gwyn's boss room is the final automatic checkpoint in the game. We have no choice but to walk out the door and accept our fate as the Dark Lord. That was a fun run, and I learned a few things about this game too. Maybe I should do the same in Dark Souls 2 actually. Let's see how many named bonfires there are in the sequel. 77! Oh god. Dark Souls 1 was the practice run, the real pain's gonna be Dark Souls 2. So no change there, right? Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoy challenge runs like this. This is the place for you. Just like how all these fine people are in the right place too. They are either my YouTube members or my Patreons. And I couldn't do weird runs like this without them. As a thank you, they get these videos early, and the higher tiered members get exclusive creator commentary videos too. You might also want to check out my other Dark Souls challenge runs. I beat all the bosses in alphabetical order on all 3 games. Or maybe you just want to see something really weird, like Metal Gear Solid without taking any steps. I've got you covered there too. Dark Souls 2 literally has more than triple named bonfires compared to Dark Souls 1. Oh my god.